Well, it was just a few weeks ago where we talked about how Disney had looked like they finally had fixed the Epcot in-ground lighting features, as shortly after these brand new lighting features were revealed back when the Epcot overhaul or the Epcot Gardens area was completed. It quit working shortly after that, and they've had lots of ongoing issues with it. And now it seems like the lights are no longer working yet again. So we have an article here from Blog Mickey, and we also have one from that Park Place. We're going to take a look at what is going on with these and if Disney can ever get these in-ground lighting fixtures fixed, because it seems like it's a uphill battle, to say the least. So we're going to go through this and give some thoughts on it. So hi, I'm Jared with Capture the Magic. And again, this one is from Blog Mickey and says, Epcot in-ground lighting looks terrible again. It says, it might be time to call it. After being broken for nearly a year, Walt Disney World was close to fixing Epcot's in-ground lighting in World Celebration, but it's broken again. The in-ground lighting is a critical part of the lighting package sold for World Celebration, but it might be time to go back to the drawing board. So let's take a closer look. It says, we'll jump right in and show you what the lighting looks like from our visit to the park tonight. Sections of lighting strips have separated from the ground, again, not only causing tripping hazards, but breaking the embedded lighting as well. There also didn't appear to be a single light strip that was functioning properly when we visited tonight, with many of the lights experiencing color issues and some strips either out completely or dimming and likely dying soon. And they took some pictures of this, of what it looks like. Yeah, that's not looking great. I mean, to their credit, Blog Mickey has been talking about this stuff. So I will give them credit for that. I mean, again, it's a very simple thing with this that they seem to be having issues with. And also over on that Park Place, they had an article here a couple days ago. They were talking about how it's already falling apart yet again. The in-ground lighting in World Celebration was meant to be a show-stopping feature for new Epcot, designed to synchronize with the nighttime lighting of Spaceship Earth and other area visuals. The fixtures were an integral part of creating an immersive and modernized theme park experience. And then, like we said, within weeks of its installation, reports began surfacing that the lights were malfunctioning, and apparently it's hard to know exactly because you're obviously not going to come out and say, but the rumors are either it could be both. They weren't installed correctly, which that seems to be the case, one would think. But then also these were not supposed to be like pressure washed. And apparently that message either didn't get relayed to maintenance or maintenance didn't follow through on what they're supposed to do. And they were pressure washing this area and it broke the seals on this. And this is what started the lighting issues. So all that's possible. I would assume, though, it's not a maintenance thing, considering if they went to the trouble to fix all of this, I would really assume they also told maintenance, hey, don't mess with this again, or like don't pressure wash this area, whatever the case may be. And yet that they're still having problems with this, it could be that they're just not, it has to be that they're just not installed correctly. I don't know what else it would be. This isn't really groundbreaking technology. I mean, to be able to do these things, it is a cool effect when it works, but not being able to have this run for longer. I don't even know if this has been running a month altogether since they've tried to do all this where it hasn't had issues here. But they also got some evidence here of showing the lights very similar to what Blog Mickey was showing. He also had people on Twitter. This is Fi over on Twitter noticing this. They said the new light strips installed November 2024 and World Celebration have begun to pop out. It also looks fairly terrible again, only 6 weeks later. It says, okay, Disney, let's look at the next 20-year maintenance cost on this, and you'll see it's cheaper to install a dancing fountain. I agree. That's the other thing, too, is like what this replaced was the Fountain of Nations. And I love the Fountain of Nations. And this just like, again, when this works, it's a cool effect. It's nothing like groundbreaking, but the fact that this doesn't work, I don't really know what's going on with this. It says photos accompanying this post show light strips protruding from the ground, creating a tripping hazard for guests. Because of this, the area has been partially roped off. These problems have only worsened with time, leaving areas of the plaza looking more like a construction site than a futuristic theme park destination. The safety concerns are compounded by cracked walkway stones in the same area. Several sections were recently roped off for safety, further disrupting the guest experience. While Disney's efforts to address these issues quickly are appreciated, the recurring nature of such problems across the parks is leading some to wonder if there's a deeper issue at play. It is a very valid question to ask what is going on with this. I mean, this is one of the things we talk about with Imagineering of they announce all these things at D23, all the things they'd like to do, and obviously competing with Epic Universe, like they're going to have to up their game. Like, are they capable of doing it when it seems like they're not even capable of installing in-ground lighting features. And again, this is something Epcot has always had. There were these in-ground LED lights in the concrete that worked up until it was all destroyed. It worked for 20, 30 plus years. So the fact that this is not worked seemingly for 1 to 2 months at a time before having issues, I mean, it's major questions here. Like, what is it just installed incorrectly? Is the product that they got not good? Like, I would love to know what's the cause of all this, or what was not really thought about. If they're talking about and I've heard some people speculate that it could be like ECVs or strollers that were causing this to kind of pop out because these lights weren't meant for that. If that is the case, how was that not discussed, thought about, planned about when you're talking about putting in-ground lighting features in a theme park? I mean, these are, again, it's one thing if this is like at your house and you weren't, thinking about certain things, but you're talking about a worldwide vacation destination. And if you didn't account for strollers and ECVs, again, I have major questions about what is going on here. And of course, we talk about another video. There's other issues going on with Disney's infrastructure. So just yesterday, we reported a sewage leakage in Epcot. It says where putrid water spilled onto walkways in a heavily trafficked area of the Land Pavilion. This caused the closure of the popular Soarin' attraction while custodial staff members worked to clean up the mess. And again, not the first time they've had an issue with sewage leaking at Disney World. Again, we had a video on this a couple days ago, but you've had instances of at least 5, 6, 7 in the past couple of years alone where there's been sewage leaks legitimately in Magic Kingdom. One at Fort Wilderness. There's been some, again, here at Epcot. It's been all over the place. The infrastructure at Disney not looking great, as well as just the overall maintenance has been something that, I've talked about for a long time, which is they're not doing the maintenance on the rides like they used to. You're seeing a lot more rides go down. The monorail is something that is often talked about. It's not as many issues lately that I've heard of, but it has had its issues where things have flown off of the monorail, almost hitting guests in the park. Lots of stuff in terms of the infrastructure of Disney seemingly having lots of questions about it, and I think rightfully so. They go on to talk about when Disney moved quickly to clean up these messes, the incidents speak to growing concerns about the reliability of the resort's infrastructure. For many longtime fans, Disney has always been synonymous with perfection, immaculate parks, and seamlessly maintained attractions, and a commitment to the, quote, Disney difference. But as incidents like these become more frequent, the cracks in the reputation are becoming harder to ignore. In the case of World Celebration, the breakdown is particularly baffling because the area is still so new. At just over a year old, the lighting and walkways should be pristine. Instead, they're showing signs of wear and tear, more typical of decades-old infrastructure. Said, what went wrong? The rapid failure of the lighting fixtures raises serious questions about how these features were designed and installed. High-traffic areas like theme park plazas require materials and construction methods that can withstand constant use, environmental exposure, and operational demands. If corners were cut during the refurbishment process, whether due to rushed timelines or budget constraints during the COVID pandemic, it's guests who are now paying the price. In-ground lighting is notoriously tricky to maintain, especially in outdoor environments. Moisture, shifting ground, and foot traffic can all contribute to malfunctions if the system isn't robustly built. But given the investment Disney has poured into Epcot's transformation, it's surprising that these problems aren't anticipated and addressed during installation. It says with the company's focus increasingly shifting toward IP-based attractions and major expansions, it's possible that critical maintenance and refurbishment efforts are being deprioritized. While it's impossible to know the internal decision-making process, the results are clear. Safety hazards, guest frustration, and an experience that falls short of Disney's own standards. And that's the thing I've said for a very long time. Disney set the standard for which theme parks are to be judged. I mean, they would pay attention to the smallest details. The parks were immaculate. They went above and beyond because they're, creating an environment that you can't find anywhere else. And in recent years, it's very obvious that they're not living up to their own standard. And many times when you call this out, people think it's being nitpicky or, oh, you're just looking for things to complain about. But I think if you understand what the parks were, what they have been historically to what they are right now, I mean, it's almost your responsibility to say something because, again, these are little things that become big things. And if they're not able to do little things as in do in-ground lighting correctly, I don't have a lot of faith about new lands being built correctly. I mean, it's a little thing. You crawl before you can walk. You walk before you can run. If you can't do, in-ground lighting, if you can't do regular maintenance on your parks, on your attractions, I don't have a lot of faith about the stuff you're building that's going to be brand new, especially look at Tiana's Bayou Adventure being a great example in both Disney World and Disneyland. It is not a very reliable ride, and it replaced a ride that people, for the most part, loved. So it's just a lot of baffling things. And again, who knows the actual cause? Disney's not going to come out and say, but it does raise a lot of questions about this. It says, time to reassess priorities. Epcot's World Celebration was supposed to represent the future of Disney parks, a bold reimagining that blended innovation with timeless storytelling. Instead, it's becoming a symbol of what happens when infrastructure doesn't meet expectations. The popping light strips and cracked walkways are not just eyesores, they're dangerous. As Disney addresses the immediate safety concerns in World Celebration, it may also need to take a hard look at how it's balancing expansion with upkeep. Infrastructure isn't glamorous, but it's the backbone of the magical experiences Disney promises. If these issues continue, they risk turning moments of wonder into moments of frustration, and no amount of shimmering lights can fix that. I agree. I mean, when you take it from that aspect of it, and you're talking about this is all happening at the same time where they reduced maintenance budgets because they're just trying to make more money. I mean, they're also charging more than ever to go to the theme parks, not only the tickets, but now charging for what was Fast Pass, but Lightning Lane, Multi-Pass, Single Pass, and now Premier Pass. So you're paying more than ever to go. You're not getting as many perks as you used to get. And on top of that, the maintenance in the parks are just not in a good spot. And even brand new areas can't be maintained for longer than a few months before they start having issues yet again. So while this seemed to be, we made a video talking about they seem to have fixed this issue, and I applauded them. Like, good job. I'm glad for fixing these issues. They should be fixed. I'm glad it's getting the attention that it needs. But the fact that we're already seeing issues yet again with it, and it's the same issues. It's not a different issue. It's the exact same issue that was happening before. It just calls into question a lot of these things, and I don't think it's, being ridiculous to question these things and just say, what is going on here? Like, why can't you fix lights? Why can't we get this brand new area at least, a couple of years before you start having issues? But you're even seeing the same area. There's a lot of wear and tear here. A lot of people have talked about the materials that they chose to use here perhaps weren't really thought about being in the Florida sun and the Florida weather. And I think a lot of this comes down to Disney kind of has a pipeline with Gensler, and Gensler is the world's largest architecture firm. And if you look at people who have run Imagineering or come in and out of Imagineering, a lot of them come to and from Gensler, and they're based out of California. And it seems like a lot of these things are designed for a California environment and just ported over for Florida. The difference is Florida and California have very different weather issues and weather demands. It's very hot in Florida, and there's the Epcot overhaul, and not only the things that were reduced and not done what they're showing the concept art, but the buildings themselves, like no shade in the Communicore Plaza area is still the most baffling thing that I can think of, as you have an outdoor concert venue or area where you can interact with and have shows and stuff, but there is no shade there. Again, that's baffling, because if you've been there in the middle of the day, it is almost unbearable to sit there with the sun just bearing down on you while watching, performers, and those performers are also going to be very hot during, doing the show in that. So yet again, we come back to a lot of questions about Imagineering. I don't really put this on maintenance. I don't think this is a maintenance issue. And if it is a maintenance issue again, I would put this on management, because somebody is not communicating to the proper people what needs to be done and how these things need to be treated. But again, I think this goes into Imagineering, how these things are installed. Really, are they thought about for longer? Is it budget cuts and they're not thinking about this long term? Because in the long run, you're going to end up spending more money on this stuff, fixing it every few years or every few months, or however often they need to fix this. Whereas if you did it right the first time, you paid a little bit more money perhaps, but you don't have to deal with these issues ongoing. And really, not only the cost of this, but just the PR look and just how it seems at a theme park where you're charging the money you're charging. I mean, these parks should look pristine. There should be no trash. These areas, everything should be working. And yeah, I know things happen. Rides go down. Issues happen. But when you have this same issue that didn't even hardly work when it was first installed very long, happening yet again, I do think this brings into a lot of question about what is going on with Imagineering, what is going on with management. Are things being looked at properly? I think there needs to be a reassessment top to bottom on all this stuff before. I mean, we haven't even got into the new things they're going to build that they announced from D23 that are supposed to be competing with Epic Universe. I mean, if in-ground lighting is something that can't get accomplished, again, I have a lot of issues with not only some of the things they chose to put in here, but where they chose to put them, but how well are these things going to be run? Are they going to be operational? I mean, we've seen a lot of the rides with Disney have a lot of issues with downtime, or Rise of the Resistance, Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Not all of the new ones, but there are a lot of rides that have a lot of issues. I just have a lot of questions, and I really, nothing else. I want Disney to get back to the basics of doing what they used to do. And one of the major things they used to do was pay attention to these things, the details, the small things that people really didn't think about, because if you didn't see it, it wasn't an issue. You didn't have to think about it. But now that you see these things and you see the wear and tear, these are things people think about. And these things become big issues. And I just really hope they can reassess this stuff, get back on track with this, and really put the money that's needed into maintenance in these areas to be able to, keep these things up and looking how they should look. Really, like I said, Disney was trying to not only make more money by charging more in the parks, but also cutting back on maintenance to show more profit for investors. And again, I've said all along, I think this is a very short-term thing, or you can do this in terms of how aggressive you are with the pricing of really trying to show a quarter after quarter revenue stream, an increase in revenue or profits. But in the long run, you're sacrificing a lot of the things that made the Disney parks they are today. And I think this stuff, if it doesn't get fixed, if they don't go back to the drawing board, this stuff is going to come back and bite them, and it's really going to cause an issue. And, I'm not bringing into question Disney's ride safety standards or anything like that, but I'm saying someone's going to get hurt at some point with this stuff. If somebody trips on this and falls, you got tons of people walking around. If there's broken stone in this area, there's just a lot of hazards that can take place and a day-to-day guest doesn't think about and can get really hurt on some of this stuff. So I do hope it gets fixed. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the remake area here. I'm not a big fan of the Epcot overhaul in general, but if it is going to be overhauled, if this is going to be a brand new area, I do hope at least this stuff runs and works properly, at least longer than a couple of weeks at a time. But as of now, it seems like we're back where we started with the lights, and we'll see if Disney goes back and fixes these yet again, or if they change this area, or what they do. I'll be very curious if they go back and try and fix this yet again, or do they scrap this and go with something different? Are the in-ground lights too complicated? Whatever the issue is, have to see what they do with this. But for now, that's going to be it, though, for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think about the ongoing in-ground lighting issues that Disney's having at Epcot? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.